And actually, look, City also interested in signing Enzo Fernandez. Do you think Chelsea midfielder could be a good fit?
Well, I think he certainly can be a good fit. I mean, he's a top player for sure, and he has some familiarity with Enzo Maresca, I think, which really, really helps. He's a top player. He's a high-level player who wants to play at the highest competitions at the highest level. The fact that Chelsea don't have that European football this year, Champions League, I think is a big minus for them. And I think that's where Enzo Fernandez, he was linked to Real Madrid earlier this summer. He wants to be playing in those competitions, so I can see why a move to Man City would be so appealing for him. Now, whether it happens or not is another question, but yeah, I can definitely see the interest and why they would be interested.
Okay, right. Well, we're going to stay with Chelsea. Chris, bring us more on the breaking news that obviously we can see on the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, news that's broken in the last few minutes really. Philip Jorgensen, he's completed a season-long move to Strasbourg, obviously one of Chelsea's partner clubs. They've agreed that deal to send him on loan, straight loan, until the end of the season. The expectation now is that Robert Sanchez and Mike Penders will be the two main senior goalkeeper options for Chelsea this season. So yeah, one that we expected but now is complete is Jorgensen to Strasbourg. Yeah,
I'm guessing just not willing to sit around doing absolutely nothing then as an almost third choice. But what do you make of Chelsea letting him go?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think for Philip Jorgensen, it makes a lot of sense for him. You know, he's in a great age, great part of his career. He wants to be playing in his best years. That makes sense. I think that number two goalkeeper position is so difficult, Haley, because there's only so long you can go without playing regularly, and I think it's really tough, and that's why you see a lot of turnover in that position. You know, maybe a year, 18 months, max 2 years you can do, and then you have to try and move on for the best 6 of your career and yourself, and then they have to try and find someone else. And that's why it's a bit of a revolving door, really, in that number two goalkeeper position.
I'm kind of staying with that. Look, Chris, Robert Sanchez, often a little bit criticised during his Chelsea career to say they're looking at signing a new keeper, do you think, to challenge him?
Do you know what? I don't think so. I think the signs that we're getting out of Chelsea is that it will be Sanchez and Penders that will fight for that number one position. I think it's going to be interesting now to see, I guess, who they bring as the third keeper. Like you said, Hayley, Chelsea down the years since they've had Sanchez, he's come under criticism. I think you'd have to say he did have an improved season last season, but still there was errors, still there was moments that made Chelsea fans nervous. I guess as a keeper yourself, Asmir, what have you made of his Chelsea career? What do you make of some of the criticism around him that he gets?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think that some of the criticism and story around Robert Sanchez has been quite unfair, to be honest. I think he's played pretty well, has been consistent. Of course, he's still a goalkeeper that was, when he first joined Chelsea, quite young, and he's developed. He's taken that responsibility of playing for Chelsea on his shoulders, and it's not easy because you're in such big scrutiny, in such big spotlight, playing for Chelsea. So it's not easy for him, but I think he's dealt with it really well. So I think from that aspect, some of that criticism has been unfair. He's developed, he's grown, he's become a lot more mature and consistent, which is great. He has been Robert's back as his goalkeeper coach, who's been there at the club ever since Graham Potter came in. And obviously he knows Robert Sanchez really well from his Brighton days. So I think that comfort blanket is really, really important. You've got a young goalkeeper, Mike Penders, who I know they like and I've seen quite a bit of, and he's a super promising talent. So it's a really good group. I think there's a bit of comfort there now this year, and hopefully he can, start the season well and hit the ground running.
I mean, people are talking about Chelsea potentially winning the league next season or being in and around it. Obviously, the two last season who were fighting for it, Arsenal, Manchester City, David Raya and Donnarumma. Can Chelsea win it with Sanchez? Can he get to that level, do you think?
Well, in order to win the league, you have to have the best, if not one of the best goalkeepers in the league. So he has to, of course, play at an incredibly high level for a consistent period for Chelsea to have that chance. Now, I think it's a big step for the whole team and the squad, I think, to put that expectation. Now, I know I've been there, I've been in that club, and of course, that expectation at that time was to win everything. I think slightly after last season, it's maybe a little bit less. It's about making sure you get into the Champions League again, getting into those places and taking that step forward, and then maybe you compete for the league. But in general terms, if you do want to win the league, you have to have one of the best goalkeepers in the league without a doubt.
Yeah. What about the squad in general and the business that they've done? They've obviously sold two of their regular back four, Mark Cucurella and Trevor Chalobah, but they have been busy signing players as well, haven't they?
Yeah, I really like their squad. I think they've made some really good progress. I think if you look at their, especially first 12 or 13 players, it's as strong of a starting 11 as really there is in the whole entire Premier League. Now, of course, that squad and the strength and depth is something they need to work on and make sure they get the numbers right with players coming and going. They've got a massive squad in terms of players available, as you well know, Chris, and I think there's a bit of work to be done there. But in terms of their actual star power, Morgan Rogers coming in, Cole Palmer, we know Cole Palmer, if he's firing and feeling well, confident, enjoying his football, he's one of the most electric players we have in the Premier League. So, and then of course, João Pedro up front, who's a really good number 9. Caicedo, if Enzo Fernandez stays, they have everything they really need in those areas of the pitch to be a successful team. Can that back four come together? With the likes of Lacroix coming in, I think he's a really good signing, smart signing, established player for quite some years now. If Levi Colwill's fit, really important player once again. And of course, if Robert Sanchez plays to the level that we know he can, then you've got a really good base and spine of the team. So I really like their squad and the business they've done this summer.
What about Nicholas Jackson? Sort of no talk of him. Do you think time to maybe move him on, or do you see value in still keeping him?
Well, again, I think it goes down to how does the squad look like. Without having the European competitions, you maybe don't need as big of a squad as you normally, would do, or Chelsea would do. So I think from that aspect, you have João Pedro, you've brought in Danny Welbeck. He's obviously there for a reason. He's going to play, be a really important player of your squad. You still have Liam Delap, and then you have Nicholas Jackson. So I think 4 is too many. So something has to give there. Now, whether it's Nicholas Jackson, maybe a Liam Delap, who's going to move on? Those are decisions they have to make. But for me, I like Nicholas Jackson. He's improved, made a really good impact at Bayern Munich last year. And I think, again, at this stage of his career, he's going to want to play regularly. So it's going to be really difficult to make all the pieces work. But that's, the kind of work that the club have to do this summer.
Yeah. And talk to us about the work that the club are doing. Are we expecting any more announcements maybe this week? Again, who are we expecting to leave, Chris?
Yeah, look, I think very close to an announcement in terms of Chelsea and Pep Chavarria from Rayo Vallecano. That talks have been ongoing now for more than a month for that deal. He's kind of got the experience that Chelsea want in terms of replacing Mark Cucurella. We know how important Cucurella was to Chelsea, not just on the pitch but off the pitch as well. Real big character in that dressing room. Played for Rayo Vallecano, like I said, last season in that Conference League final against Crystal Palace. So yeah, like I said, this one's been going on for a little while, but a deal is really close to being agreed, and I think we'll see something this week on that one.
Okay, we shall wait and see if it is. There you go. Right, on the